you for being here. Thanks for being a part of it, and thanks for coming to this session. This is our session on, I had the title.
He has to look it up.
Autistic and Employable, How to Outshine the Competition. And we are really grateful today to have Samantha Easter with us. Sam is awesome, and she is a senior communications specialist at Mountain America Credit Union, concentrating on DEIB, which is diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, personal finance, and professional development. Before this, she served as Assistant VP of Instructional Design, leading a team to craft stellar training programs and as an HR program manager for employee engagement and development. Holding masters in adult education and diversity and an MBA, Samantha boasts over 10 years of experience teaching adults in the US and abroad, aiding them in enhancing skills and navigating workplace culture. Samantha is both autistic and ADHD, and she's a passionate advocate for neurodiversity. She enjoys speaking to workplaces to promote inclusive environments. As a Southern Arizona native, she delights in uncovering authentic Mexican cuisine and shares her culinary adventures as a food critic for local magazines. Let's have a big warm welcome for Samantha Easter.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for being here. I am super excited to present on this topic. So, getting a job is hard. I know for me, I have never gotten a professional job using a traditional job application, an interview, the whole neurotypical shebang. I've always gone around HR. And I think that is probably the best way for people like us to get jobs. But then it's like, okay, how do you do that? So I'm gonna show you how to do a non-neurotypical job search. But first, if you haven't joined the Mentee, please do. I see that we have 10 in there right now. And I'd love to hear, what has been your experience so far? So I see hard with anyone with differences to break through. And I think that term breakthrough is a really good one, because once you're in, it's a lot easier. But it's hard to get in the job. So many interviews and resumes. Way too many steps. The steps are not so good with the executive dysfunction that so many of us have. And I am really sad to hear that you've been turned down because you're autistic. That seems like a violation of some kind of law, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. It's frustrating because there's specific rules. If you're willing to share, and I'm not gonna put you on the spot if you're not, do you mean the actual formal rules or the informal rules? For this one that says frustrating because I know there's specific rules that I don't know. I'd say that there are so many informal rules that, it's not like we have an instruction guide so it's hard to do that. And then it's frustrating how they expect you to have experience to get a job, but you need a job in order to get experience. It is an exciting chicken and the egg situation. And then it's harder to do as you get older. And so that is a huge challenge that so many of us face. My supervisors don't trust me enough to do hard things because I'm autistic. That's heartbreaking, especially since so many of us have higher attention to detail than most. So you should be more trusted in some ways. And it can be scary because I feel like it's dumb luck, and you are not wrong on that. Online applications are near impossible to get a job, yep. Especially with Easy Apply, it's easy to apply for 100 things, but that means that everyone's applying for 100 things. I don't like being passed by because of age, even though I have experience and more experience than the others that they have interviewed. Yeah, that's hard. Ageism is incredibly real. And when you have the multiple exciting things going on, that makes it a big challenge. And then there's a lot of anxiety. Absolutely. And I know for me, whenever I'm anxious about something, I'm not nearly as good. So that compounds the challenge that people have. So and I like this one that just popped up, not knowing how to start out. And no one seems to explain how the process works, because it often doesn't work for us. So that's why I wanted to share this topic, because we are employable, and there is so much opportunity in this room, but just in general with our population. But it's how to actually make people see that. So Well, it seems like everyone's in, so yay. So another question, are you currently employed? And I know those are a little bit small, so I have a couple of options of yes, and I love my job. Yes, and I would love a different job. No, I don't want a job. No, and I want a job. And I'm a student right now, or I'm just not looking right now. All are valid. Okay, no, and I want a job. That means that I'm relevant, so that's good. Yes, but you're looking for something better. That's very, very common with autism, because we're often underemployed, or in our areas, we're just not having as much luck. Yes, sir. Oh, sorry. And can you say that again? I'm so sorry.
In the general public, there's like 45% are looking for better employment as well. I know that
Oh, absolutely.
the autistic community, but I think in general, it's hard for anyone to
Oh,
find a job.
absolutely. And when it's hard for everyone to find a job, people that have some differences often struggle more. What I've heard is a great analogy of musical chairs. Imagine you're playing a game of musical chairs, and there are 10 people playing, and there are 8 chairs. The 2 people that are not going to get a chair are often those that have some kind of difference. Maybe they're in a wheelchair, maybe they're LGBTQ, maybe they're autistic, but it's easier to get a chair when you're neurotypical. And so, yes, especially after the pandemic, so many people are looking for something new, something better, where a lot of us are frustrated. But it's harder for us. If you're just joining, if you could please go to menti.com and toss in that number. And yes, but underemployed. That is super common, where you have a part-time job, but you want a full-time job. You're working at Wendy's, but you have a computer science degree. That happens a lot. And it also happens in the neurotypical market, don't get me wrong, but it's more common with people like us. So thank you so much for sharing. So I'm going to depress you for about 3 minutes, and I'm so sorry. But some stats. First, all these stats are super vague. Like, you can find 100 different numbers, just FYI. But what the typical stats I see is that somewhere between 50% and 85% of college-educated autistic adults are unemployed. That is so much wasted potential. And obviously, I couldn't find as many stats for those without a college degree, but it's similarly depressing. Then we have over 30% of young autistic adults have no post-high school plans. They don't know what to do. What are you going to do with your life? Are you going to get a job? Are you going to go to college? Are you going to do vocational training? So many people don't know what they're going to do. And when you don't have a plan, it's harder to get something off the ground. And going back to that underemployed, almost 80% of those people with jobs work part-time. And I didn't include this stat, but most of those people want full-time employment. So that's a big challenge. And I've heard a lot of arguments of, okay, why should we worry so much about getting a job? Why feed the capitalist beast at all? And I know for me, at least, when I don't have a job, I get depressed. I get lethargic. I need structure. I need people. And I'm not going to go out and find people because I don't like people so much. But when I'm at work, I have that interaction. I'm growing. I'm learning. Even if when I was a waitress or a bartender, it still gave me purpose. So it's no surprise that people who have employment have less mental health concerns than those who are underemployed or unemployed. So, job still feeds the capitalist beast, but it feeds yourself as well, both literally and metaphorically. Why? Why are these stats here? Why is it so hard for people like us to get a job? Yes, please.
Because, most people, especially those who are higher functioning,
Uh-huh.
have come with, reading social cues being socially appropriate, and just like miscommunication, and just feeling like I was hurt, and just like being underappreciated. I had a coworker who didn't appreciate me as a employee, management, which made me feel kind of like, underappreciated.
And that becomes a cycle. When you don't like what you're doing, then you're going to do it. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. And then I see you back there. And that's hard. And it's also hard. And you see the advice of like, just tell people I don't like to be touched. But then it also feels super awkward to do that because then you seem like, oh, the person who has the big bubble. And so it's hard to know how to do those social rules, especially since it's not like, you have how to social work in the environment. So thank you for sharing those. Here are a couple reasons that I know of. First, pre-screening. As you said, getting an online application, it's really hard because everything's online. My grandpa still tells me, oh, just walk into the business and shake the CEO's hand and tell him that you want a job. No, Grandpa. Honestly, when you have people do that, they mark you off the list because you can't follow instructions. So the old boomer advice, no offense, I love you, but it does not work nowadays. It's different. So, oh, please.
Sometimes depending on the company.
It does.
I mean, like, if you see like apply or hiring now, apply within or
Yes.
hiring within, then you go in, but like if there's hiring, please apply or that you do that.
Totally. Following the rules, and that's often hard. Yes, please. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It does. And it's unsustainable. Thank you for sharing. Yes, sir. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. And it's not like you have a ton of transparency about what's happening there. Yes, please.
I'm gonna complain for a second.
Okay, go for it.
So, over the years, like throughout my entire life, I've been kind of taken advantage of, like, the certain, I don't know, whatever.
The pandemic?
Taken advantage of my dependability and taken advantage of the fact that, like, I am on the spectrum. People have, like, taken advantage of that, thinking, like, oh, like, she's dependable, this person's dependable, like, let's call her in all the time, or let's give her a job that no one else wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
So that really kind of frustrates me, like, possibly, like, maybe that's what's been going on my entire life, like, people seeing that I'm different and I'm unique, and so they're gonna take advantage of that, like put them in places that no one else wants to do.
Thank you for sharing that. And that's a big challenge, especially when something that is a good trait becomes something that's now typecast. You have your hand up? Yeah.
My last job, I worked with kids who have autism too, but making it hard for me was that I have a hard time understanding what they were wanting me to do, and it took me like 4 times as long to get everything, all the background checks, all the fingerprints, testing, all the everything I had to do, and so I felt like I was a problem.
It is not unintuitive. I mean, it is so necessary on you knowing the rules that other people do, and that is a huge challenge. Thank you. They don't. Mm-hmm. That's hard. Yes?
My problem is I'm talking to employees. I work at the local museums as a nursing place. I'm putting stuff in their bags, and I try to talk about what they like. I do that a lot, unfortunately, and because of their personal space, but then like we're not supposed to do that. I get a little frustrated with other employees, like cashiers, they talk about themselves, some of their personal stuff, and for some reason they're talking about it. I'm not really fond of that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And those are just really big challenges that we often have with finding and keeping a job. It's also hard, it becomes compounding, as you said, because when you haven't had that first job, you haven't had job experience, then it's really easy to not make it to even the interview, and you're tossing in 100 applications online and not hearing back. So that pre-screening process, often done by robots, is really challenging for us. And then you have the interview. An interview is a social test, typically at least. It is not there to, computer, oh no, 1 second. Okay, cool. It is there, it's not there to like test your skills, it's there to test culture fit and also like, hey, what's your vibe? That's basically what it is it's a vibe test. How are you doing? And we have you heard of the double empathy problem? Look it up, there's a great TED Talk on it. Yeah, you know. Basically, they've done a lot of experiments that show that when you get a group of neurotypical people, there isn't communication issues. I mean, beyond the fact that we're all special snowflakes. You get a group of autistic people in a room, we communicate just fine. It's when you put the autistics and the non-autistics together that we're like cats and dogs. I mean, it really is. Like, if you think about a cat, when it's wagging its tail, it's pissed. You do not touch the cat when it's wagging its tail. A dog, though, when a dog's happy, it's wagging its tail all over the place. So that is a communications issue that we're running into. Yes? The what? Either, but typically yes. The neurotypicals in this case are likely to be the dogs, and we're likely to be the cats. I don't know if that's offensive to anyone. I apologize if I've typecast you, but I would say typically yes. Dogs, super friendly. They love everyone. They're super easygoing. We're more like cats often. I know for me that's the case. And then as we talked about culture fit, keeping that job, that's a big challenge for us. So here's an idea. Let's leave the neurotypical job search to the neurotypicals. They can play with that. Now, I'm not saying that this is going to be easy, but it's actually a lot easier than throwing in 500 applications, getting 459 rejections, getting 10 interviews, and finally getting one job that you don't love. And that's been my experience. So I'm gonna take you on a quick journey. I spent 3 years in China. I was teaching there. And one thing that was really fun is one of the funnest things that you can do there is do KTV or karaoke. Now, who here has done karaoke? I really like how quickly you raised your hand there. In China, they call it KTV, and imagine a huge event facility that looks like Trump Tower, gold everywhere, everyone's wearing shiny dresses, red carpet, chandeliers, it's crazy. And one thing that was the most fascinating is that in every one of these venues, they would hire beautiful women to wear formal wear and heels, get dolled up, and they would stand in a line all night with a number. And typically, a male boss and his employees would go and go like, yeah, I want 5. I'm going to go with number 4, 53, and 7. And they would buy companionship, which honestly is not the worst thing ever. It wasn't, nothing untoward would tend to happen. Women would typically compliment their singing. They would just be there and be pretty, whatever. I have no moral issue with it either way, but it was weird. But that's what it's like applying for a job. You are in that line, you are wearing that number, and really, when you're just looking at an application or a resume, it's hard to tell differences. You know, you can say, yes, this person has more experience, this person has less experience. But overall, they all kind of look the same, and they blend together, and so it's hard to stand out in those areas. And then when you have a line of people that look all very similar, then you can be really picky. I like my women to be shorter than I am. I like long hair. And then it's easy to like pick out people and have other people that are not being picked at all because there's no difference from what they're seeing. So don't be in that line. That line is not going to work for us. Instead, this is what my employment journey has looked like, basically. And anyone who tells you that it's going to be clear and easy, you're going to go to high school, then you're going to go to college, you're going to get, an entry-level job, and then a mid job, and then you're going to be president, and then an astronaut. That's not how it works. I don't know. That's what I was told. I was told I should be an astronaut by now, but no. And that's not the case for anyone nowadays. No one's going to look like a linear job anymore. But especially for us, there's no timelines that you need. And if you need to go back to school, that's cool. You need to go back in your career and start something new, that happens. I'll tell you that when I started out, I started with a bachelor's degree in journalism. And then 2008 happened, and then all the newspapers closed. Crap, cool. So then I went to China and became a teacher because one of my bartender friends told me it was cool. And it's like, that's a thing? Yeah, it's totally a thing. Not so much right now, don't go there right now, but there's tons of opportunity to teach overseas. And that gave you a lot of interesting experience and exposure. I decided I loved that and I wanted to be a professor. I went back to the States, got a master's in education, and discovered that being a professor in America is almost impossible. And I was not willing to put in the work to go do that, which is, look it up, it is scary, don't try and be a professor. I also did not want to be a teacher in America. So I'm like, okay, cool, what now? I got an MBA. I was initially thinking, okay, I just want a stable job that I'm not gonna be in poverty at, that I can just do and will be there. So I first was thinking to get an accounting degree, because that's gonna be around forever, right? It's not. But yeah, anyone who's an accountant, I apologize, but yeah, you might wanna cross-train. But, so in my first accounting class, I discovered I do not like accounting. My gosh, that did not work for the brain. But I discovered I love business. And MBA, was actually great. Because especially for the ADHD in me that loves learning all the different things, that was fantastic. Do you have a question?
How long did it take to get the MBA?
The MBA was 2 years. It's a 2-year program. I got it at the University of Utah, Eccles, which is why I actually came to Utah. Yes. And they have online programs, weekend programs, and then full-time. I went for the full-time. During the MBA, you're expected to get an internship. And I took a risk and got an unpaid internship at the most stereotypically cool tech startup ever. It was unpaid because it was a cool tech startup. But I did get a Nerf gun on my first day. And the CEO was riding a scooter around, and there was a nap room, which was awesome for decompression. It was an awesome job. And even though it was a risk to start that, I ended up, by the time I left my MBA, I was the assistant director of training. Because in a startup, you can move fast. And also, since a lot of people are also weird there, in all honesty, ADHDers typically are the ones starting businesses. ADHD and autism, same thing. Because we need to. Because the neurotypical job search process does not work for us. If Elon Musk was able to get a job the traditional way, maybe we wouldn't have, for better or for worse, a lot. So, and then after I got that internship and left, I started at Mountain America, where I've been for 5 years. And in that time, I've had 5 different jobs for 5 different leaders, which is actually rare for a conservative credit union. But it's been great. And half the jobs I have pitched, I have made my own jobs, I've made my own titles, and every time I go in, I'm like, cool, this is what the job description says, I'm not gonna do that, I'm gonna do this instead. And when you're in, that works. Yes?
How do you become an autism advocate?
Can you say that again?
How do you become an autism advocate?
An autism advocate. it was actually way easier than I thought. So after I was diagnosed at 33, I was part of Toastmasters, the speaking organization, and someone in the group said that he was speaking at the diversity summit at the Capitol. And I'm like, ooh, I'm actually going to that. Tell me more. And he ended up inviting me to a session of the governor's office for workforce development for individuals with disabilities, which includes us. And now I have HR people asking me to speak for them, and it's great. I'm not like getting paid yet, I'm not like professional yet, but I'm still able to have an impact on companies. I mean, it depends on, are you defining advocate as a job?
I mean, I really think that like women on the spectrum are underlooked, especially with higher functioning needs. And I think it should be something that we pay more attention to.
Absolutely.
When I was younger, I mean, I've had ADHD my whole life, but like my mom swore that I had autism, and my teachers were like, oh no, she doesn't look autistic and all that stuff. So I believe that like women and autism are.
Absolutely we are. And I can tell you that for me, when I was diagnosed, there was a year-long waiting list, cost $1,000. You get a shiny piece of paper and that's about it. And no real benefit, but like the waiting list was mostly adult women. But so yeah, there is a need for that awareness and advocacy, but you are an advocate right now. And I'm not saying that in some Pollyanna inspirational crap way. Like the fact that you talked right now and that you shared that, you're advocating. Advocation is a verb.
I mean, like just yesterday, I came up with the idea to start a podcast for girls with spectrum.
Cool, do it. I mean, that's what often, like, people often don't do things. They talk about things, but they don't do things. And if you can be the person that does something, that's gonna set you apart. It's gonna piss off a lot of people, don't get me wrong. But who cares? We're already pissing people off, so. So we know we're different. And so own it. And some questions that I often get is, should I be out about my autism? I don't know, to be frank. Me being able to be out, I think, is a matter of privilege. Because I've been at my company a long time, people know me, they know me as Sam. So it's like, oh, Sam is autistic. She's not, oh, autistic Sam. So I can't tell you that, but I can tell you that people know something's different. If you think about uncanny valley, if you look at a robot that's so close to being human, but it's not. It's like 95% there, but you know it's off. It freaks you out. We love Data from Star Trek because he does not look like a human. He looks mostly like a human, but you can very easily tell he's different. But if Spock covers his ears, people know he's a little different, but they don't know why. And so also when you look at like an AI photo and you're like, ooh, that's freaking me out, but I don't know why it's freaking me out. That's oftentimes how we come off. People can tell there's something different, either in the way we're moving, like I'm using a fidget toy, silly putty right now. We can tell like the eye contact. I'm pretty good at it, but I'm not perfect and it's a little forced. My voice, my emotions are coming out differently. I'm a little bit off, but I'm like 95% there. Yes, please.
So, last night I went to dance after Outshine, and I was like showing people the back of my shirt, and I was thinking, this is a risk I have to take to being at the conference. Like I'm showing people like this is what I am.
Yeah. And that's a low risk in public, but when you're looking for a job or in a job, that becomes a much bigger risk. So I know for me, I am extremely out. I run our disabilities employee resource group. I have a separate neurodiverse group. I am constantly yelling about it, and people know me. But that's because I'm fairly privileged in that area, and I recognize it. And because I'm privileged, I feel it is my job to advocate. It is my job to do that verb, because I can. It's not dangerous for me. But also, I see it as a strategic advantage, because people kind of know me already, and they're like, oh, cool. I've heard like Elon Musk's autistic. Like, because we have some examples, people are more interested. I can tell you that the people in HR are actually awesome. They are not mustache twirly villains. They are not sitting there like, I want to discriminate. In fact, they're often looking for diversity because they know, especially in Utah, they know. But also you don't want to token anyone, you don't want to make things weird. And especially for us, we're not like easy to spot necessarily. So whenever I can, I was in a job interview yesterday actually, and I was clear, I'm autistic. I don't know if that's gonna work for me or against me, but I would rather them have the story in their heads about why I'm different. If they know that something's a little bit off, but I don't know why. You know, when you think about like someone's lying, what do? They're not making eye contact. They're fidgety. They are maybe using wrong emotions. Their voice is off. They maybe are not reacting the same way that you would expect. I know if my grandpa died, I'm gonna be super logical for a really long time. I'm not gonna cry, especially publicly, until I'm comfortable, until I've processed it. And they might look at me and think I'm cold. And so me telling them, oh, just so you know I'm autistic, that gives them the story. I am telling them the new story. Yes, please.
I was diagnosed with Asperger's in 5th grade,
Mhm.
and my mom was just like, I'm not going to treat you differently. I'm going to treat you the same as everyone else. And I'm just like, I wish you treated me differently because I am different.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oftentimes people don't know what that means though. I would say most people don't actively discriminate, but they don't know what it means. When I go to HR departments, and I've talked to like 15 different companies now, just talking to their HR people, the first question I ask is, what is neurodiversity? And half the people have never heard that word. Most people have no idea what autism looks like, especially in women, especially in someone who does not look like Rain Man. So people don't know, and they need to be told what you need. Is that fair? Maybe not, but it's a reality. Yes, sir.
Really quick, going back to your comment about interviewing, when you do tell them that you're autistic, how do you show them that that is something that they would want with their company? And maybe you're already getting there, but like in the interview.
I'm not, so I'll tell you.
Yeah, so because you don't want to just leave it at autistic, because then they're still telling themselves a story based on whatever their understanding of autism is, which might be nothing or might
Totally.
be negative. But how do you help them say like, yeah, I'm autistic, that explains my differences, but also here's how that's going to rock for this company?
So I think there are probably 2 times that you can do that. When you're first interviewing, like when you're talking to the actual recruiter, telling them, hey, I'm autistic and this is what I need. Don't leave it at I'm autistic, because then it's like, okay, I don't know what that means. What do I do? You tell them, like, hey, just so you know, my eye contact might be a little bit off. I might not answer the questions like you are expecting. So just letting them know that in advance can be helpful. The second one is when I was given a question yesterday, literally, like, oh, what strengths are you bringing to this role? And I started off with, hey, as an autistic person, I don't think the same way most people think, which in that role would be an asset. So just being able to explain it as a strength and explaining specifically how it is a strength for you can be really important. So you're different, be different. Don't try and fit in. And I know that's a lot easier said than done, and there is some masking that needs to happen, but overall, lean into the being different, because it's coming out anyway. So you control that narrative. But step 1 for how to get that job. First, define what makes you special. And I know this is so common in, interviewing stuff. There's a lot of talk about it, but I'm gonna bring this to the autistic way. Yeah, thank you. First, what do you love? Special interests. Use those. Like when you think about like what you're passionate about, most of us have a lot of passions that we know a lot about. So when you think about that, that's what I love. Second, what am I good at? What skills do I have? And I'm gonna break these down, so don't worry about it. But what are you good at? And finally, what do I do naturally? What can I not do? For me, I can't shut up. I ask questions constantly. I share feedback. I'm the person that goes, hey, did you know that the soap's out in the bathroom and that your website's wrong? I just do that naturally, and that can be a big pain in the butt, or it can be an advantage depending on how you frame it. But what do you naturally do? Yes?
From what we were just saying. I said, sorry.
Go for it.
I feel like I'm backstepping just a little bit from what you're saying. But I've noticed that when, people are asking, when you're telling people that you're autistic, sometimes they don't know what to do with that information.
Exactly.
And so if you're like, hey, I need A, B, and C, these are ways to accomplish that, but I can give you these things as well. And they're very specific and straightforward. People usually know more what to do with that. I apologize.
Absolutely. Thank you for calling that out. So, for me, and if you don't want to call out that you're autistic, call it out in a different way. Hey, I misread social cues sometimes. I need you to be very clear. I need you to be okay with me asking you follow-up questions. So don't just say what your issue is. Don't just say I'm autistic and expect someone to know what to do with that. They don't. And that's not because they're not trying. It's not because they don't care. It's because they don't know what to do with that. You're speaking Chinese to them. They don't know. So you have the opportunity to guide them. And for most, you are the first autistic person most people will ever knowingly meet. They've probably met others, but you have the chance to really influence what other people will think.
So like in an interview when they ask you to tell them about yourself, would you say well, I'm an autistic individual who graduated with my bachelor's degree, blah, 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 blah.
I would if it's relevant.
Would you go in depth, how it affects you? So that way
Not
they
in
are
that
aware?
area, unless it's an advantage for this role. I'm getting a role in diversity, equity, and inclusion. This is how that relates. But if I'm getting a role as, an admin assistant, no. I might bring it up, but bring it up neutrally, so they know, oh, this person's unique, cool. But I might not bring it in that conversation. So it also depends on how much power you feel you have. So I would be careful in that sense and only frame it as a positive, even though it sucks. Also, when they ask you about what challenges you might have, that is also a good time to bring it up. I wouldn't have that be the first time you talk about it, because then you're framing it in a negative way. But saying, hey, you know what? I suck at people sometimes. I misread social cues a lot, and I will need your help with that, and give them specific ways they can help you. So don't just leave it at, this is what I'm not so good at. Give them what they can do with that and how you help with that. So, first, with special interests. Who here has a special interest? Yeah, most of us. And I'm gonna separate these into 3 different kinds. The passing fad, AKA, I got into leather working for a week, I got obsessed, I bought all the tools, and I've never picked it up again. Still have it for some reason, but that's the passing fad. Do not base a job search on the passing fad. Do not do that. I'm sorry, it's probably not gonna be a thing. That's gonna give you weird expertise in a certain area. Don't base a job search on that. Then you have your sporadic interests. For me, I'm interested in virology. So every time I hear about a new pandemic somewhere across the world, I'm like, oh, I need to research all that all night. But then it kind of dies down. So that's something that's gonna give you unusual expertise in an area. That's something to do for projects, for consulting, not so much for a job. The big one is the old regular, the one you go back to. For me, it's personal finance. Every day I read the personal finance column. I read blogs about it. I love doing budgets for people. I love personal finance. I've loved it since I was a kid, and I will not shut up about it. That's been consistent throughout my life. That is something to look into. And then interrogate your interests. So, who here likes video games? Yeah. They're often crack for our brain, which is designed for it, but a lot of people like video games. And so don't leave it at, I love video games. No. First, so many people do, don't get a job there, it's not gonna work. But if you love video games, you probably have good problem-solving abilities. You're creative, you might be in teamwork. You probably have good hand-eye coordination, analytical thinking, you have a drive to win, you love to learn, you're good with technology. These are all stereotypes and they're not gonna work for everyone, but these are some options. So I don't say I love video games. Instead, what does that mean? Break it apart. ChatGPT, has anyone here used that? Dude, go out there right now, get a free account. It will blow your mind. It is the best thing for autism, I swear. I tossed in what skills does video games support, and it gave me this. This came from ChatGPT. Use it, it's awesome. So then, what are you good at, and what do you love to do? So, I'm gonna just move on. So what do you do naturally? For me, I ask so many questions. You can't make me shut up. I share feedback. For better or for worse, I challenge authority, and I challenge the status quo. I don't see hierarchy. I will talk to my CEO the same as I will talk to a branch teller. Some people love that, some people hate that. You're gonna wanna find the jobs where people love that.
Say how it is regardless of how it'll affect other people's feelings.
Yes, exactly. Because we often process emotions. It takes us longer to process emotions, which is great in a crisis. But in normal speech, it means that my best friend asked me if that dress makes her look fat. I'm gonna say, yeah, it does. You're gonna wanna change. And then after that, I'm gonna go, oh, the emotional side of my brain is telling me maybe not. Cool. But she knows by now, she's gonna ask me and she's gonna get an honest answer. And some people like that, some people don't. You're gonna wanna find the people who like that. I love communicating, I can't shut up. I love to research, I love to collect data, I love to learn. I love to teach and share information. And I love to hoard things. I hoard information, I hoard ideas, I hoard random wood I find on the road. Cool. What can I do with this? So after you've decided what you love to do, what you are good at doing, and then what you naturally do, what your behaviors are, start connecting the dots. I don't know why I forgot I have this. Yes?
Can you just give me clarification?
Please.
You just said what behaviors I do?
Yes, so the things that you naturally do, like you naturally speak. That is something that you naturally do. No one needs to tell you, hey, I want participation. You did that naturally.
Oh, so like things I will do without anyone telling me to.
Exactly.
Okay, cool, thank you.
So that is a natural behavior for you. Talking in public, raising your hands, so things that you do naturally. I also love to pace. You can't get me to stop pacing. Yeah, you know it. And so that's what I naturally do. So you're gonna wanna connect these. Write your own chart. What do you love? What are you actually good at? And what do you do? And then what you're gonna try and find is the weirdest niches possible. So when you think about someone who loves to communicate, they probably love to communicate, they probably love social media, and they probably love writing. They probably love poetry. Those things connected suck. Don't do that, because there's so many people that have that same set of skills, loves, and behaviors. You're gonna wanna find the weird ones, the ones that make us different. So for example, I love personal finance. Traditionally, women are not the most represented in personal finance, already a difference there. Most people don't love talking about money. There's a difference, but you take that weird interest, maybe it's, I love reading the encyclopedia. I love coding, I love finding bugs in things. I love actual bugs. I don't know. Take your special interest, break it down into something you can use, and then what are you good at? For me, I'm great at communication. Traditionally, people who love finance are not always the best communicators. Trust me, I work at a credit union. They don't know that they're speaking gibberish to most people, and they're freaking people out. You talk about money, people naturally like, oh, that's impolite to talk about money. I don't want to talk about money. Most people don't know how to communicate about money. So I like personal finance, I'm good at communication, and then I naturally share feedback. Cool, what can I do with this? And then you can make this for all your different interests. It's going to be a mix and match opportunity. So you're gonna wanna find what careers and industries this is going to be good for. Again, ChatGPT. It's free, try it. Yes? If you have something to back it up. I would not put virology on my website, on my resume. Yeah, so let's say personal finance. If I had a personal finance blog, yes. But only if you can tactically say, this is something I've done. Or if it amounts to a skill. Personal finance is also a skill. If you're amazing at identifying bugs, cool, entomology, that's a skill. So I would not put, I love video games. I would put, I have creative thinking, I have hand-eye coordination. So tell them what that means, and also try and stay away from stereotypical things. Things that are like, oh, well, a lot of people like poetry. A lot of people like video games. A lot of people like horses. Be specific. So you're gonna wanna find the opportunities and careers that this mix will work for. Again, I'm gonna advocate, I have a slide on that, I'm advocating it. Look it up, ChatGPT, it's everywhere, and it's free. But I just type in, literally, give me 10 potential careers for someone with these traits. I love personal finance, I'm great at communication, I naturally share feedback. It gave me 20 different jobs, 3 of which I've already held. So I'm like, oh, that's legit. And another 5 I've thought about and decided it wasn't for me, but it was a good start. So this is also gonna give you interesting ones that you wouldn't have thought of. Yes, please.
I'm just curious. So I have a lot of different interests, but I don't know how to put them into one job. And so
No, you're not gonna put them into one job.
But so I love the idea of homesteading. I love understanding like psychology in people. And so instead of looking for one job, I've been looking for little pieces of jobs. Like I'll do one job over here that has to do with gardening and housekeeping. I'll do something else over here where I volunteer for the university for so many hours a week. And so I'm able to do a bunch of different things and get feedback on them. And I just find that more helpful than people going, oh, well, just get a job. Instead of volunteering or doing this, you need to focus on getting an income. And I'm like, well, I am, but it's just looks different.
Yeah, and you're sampling them. You're fine, and then I'm sure you're making opportunities. You're getting skills there, and so that's great. You're not going to find something that's going to connect all of your passions. Some things are going to be a hobby, but the fact that I didn't know that I was actually going to be able to be a writer at a credit union. I thought I was going to need to be an accountant or a financial analyst, but then I found out that credit unions have training teams, huge ones. They have like 40 different people that are. Did that? Okay, sorry, I thought my mic stopped. So you have a lot of opportunity that you wouldn't quite know. So don't toss anything out. Let's say you love psychoanalyzing people. I know I do, I love that. Love breaking people apart and understanding them. And then also totally get on the homesteading. I have this fantasy about getting a farm in Vermont. Do not have the executive function for that. But imagine this, what can that work for? Rural areas have a desperate need for therapists. So if you can connect those, then that's gonna be awesome because you're gonna be able to authentically talk about the difficulties in farming and being in a rural area, but connect it to therapy. Yes?
Okay, so I just gotta tell you this really cool sweet spot that I found just recently. Okay, so with me loving homesteading and social stuff, so there is this community garden, and it's like this huge field. I live in Logan area, and it's in the middle of town, but there's still some really odd places that haven't quite been developed. And so I'm able to help them with their community garden, but then also, there's this place called Options for Independence, and they work with people, like a lot. And I don't know, it's a really sweet spot because be able to talk to people and get a feel for what people need and then go figure out what careers are close by. It's awesome. That's all I had to say.
And the way that you said that, like, I just want to point that out, is that's what you're looking for. When you go, oh, yay, I'm excited. I am so excited for this thing. That's what you're looking for. And you're not going to find that when you're applying for Wendy's jobs or anything else. When you make your own opportunity, then you can bring those together, and it's a win-win for everyone. Because the fact that you have those skill set that you can bring together, they're going to get more value out of it. It's good for them. It's good for you. Yes. How do you get your foot? That's step 2. Thank you. Great question, though. Yay! I forgot that was the next slide. Step 2. Find allies, AKA networking. Networking makes me want to die. And trust me, I had it in the MBA, we had a network, and I sucked at it. It's like, okay, I'm gonna go to this party, I'm gonna talk to at least 5 people, I'm gonna eat the shrimp, and then I'm gonna go home and die. I'm gonna go sit on the couch. I'm so excited about sitting on the couch, but I need to go talk to 5 people. Don't do that. That's not gonna work. Because you have the MBA bros who are actually really good at that, who love that. They get their rocks off. I don't know what's happening here. But they get their rocks off on actually talking to people. Leave that for them. That's not your area. Instead, you're gonna find allies, and this is how. How? First, prepare a good and legit question, not a bullshitting question, a good question. So for you, it might be, hey, what opportunities are there in the rural community for therapy? So you can go find people who are therapists in the rural community. Talk to government officials who are in that community, the rural economic development area. So have a question in your head that is a legit question that you're interested in, that it's also good for careers. So here's some examples. What does a financial analyst do every day? Don't give me the job description. You walk into your office at 8, and then apparently they spend half their time cold calling people and trying to sell them. Not for me. That's good to know, though. So what does someone do? What's the market like for software developers in Utah? I'm gonna go out and find 20 software developers to go ask them that question. How is your training team structured? If you know you like teaching and you want to teach adults and not be in poverty, cool, go find training teams and ask them, how are they structured? What kind of roles are there? I didn't know the term instructional design was a thing. It's a fancy word for I make educational courses, but that pays 3 times as much as your average teacher. Good learning. I would not have learned that otherwise. Or be honest. Hey, is accounting an autism-friendly career? Yes, it is. Not for me, though. Does not work with the ADHD side of me, but it is. But then, figuring that out and asking a bunch of accounting bros, hey, let me know. So once you have your question, now you're going to hunt. So you're going to find people on LinkedIn, cold message them. Find someone with, let's say we're going to go with the rural therapy thing. I love that example. Find people on LinkedIn who work in government, who work in rural areas, who work in therapy shops or psychotherapy or the University of Utah therapy program. I don't know. Find people on LinkedIn. And don't be afraid to cold message them, connect with them, ask them the question. Don't just connect. You're going to say, hey, I would love to ask you this question. Can we chat? So find them on LinkedIn. You can also look at the Book of Lists for Utah. Look it up. This is a page that will have all the companies and industries in a place. Utah has 155,000 employers. There's opportunity there, and most people don't know what these are. So go find, if you're interested in, let's say, mining, because some people love rocks. Awesome. Mining might be for you, and there are a lot of opportunities, especially if you're a woman, because they want to hire them, but no one wants to work in a mine. So find there, I was literally looking at this yesterday in the mining section. There was 40 different companies with mining. Go talk to them. Go make your face known. And then social media, you like Instagram, you like Reddit. Reach out. Ask people your question. You are not asking them for your job. You're not asking them for anything else. You are asking them a question. People love to talk. They love to share their stories. They love to be the expert. That's why I'm talking right now. People love to talk about themselves. They love to help people in an easy way. Giving someone a job is a big ask. You don't want to start with that. But helping others in an easy way of giving advice, that makes them feel good. I love giving advice. Most people love giving advice. So being able to just say, hey, I have a question for you, that will get you in that door. You will make connections. Now, here is your goal for this exercise. Reach out to 100 people. And I'm serious on that number. Reach out to as many people as you can, and this is easy to do on social media. You have your question, copy and paste it. Hi, Bill, I'd love to ask you this question. Hi, Jane, I'd love to ask you this question. But your goal, reach out to 100 people. And no, 25% of the time, you're gonna get ghosted. Expect it. It's okay. If someone rando reached out to you, you might ghost them too. But that's why you're reaching out to 100. 25% of the time, someone's gonna write back and say, you know, I don't have the time to answer this, or I'm not the right person to answer this. Sorry. You will get rejected. And honestly, this is a great exercise for people like us because often we fear rejection, and burning that out of you, getting okay with being rejected is a very important skill because you will get rejected. Get over it. It's okay. And you will feel awkward 110% of the time. Maybe that math doesn't work, but just know it. I know I'm gonna feel awkward when talking to this dude. Cool, embrace it, own it. And you're not looking for a job at this stage. You are sincerely wanting Bob to tell you what's it like being an accountant. You are sincerely asking that. Your job right now is to chat with them, preferably in a virtual meeting, in-person meeting, or the phone. I don't like the phone. Personally, virtual meeting is the best one here. With as many people as possible. Do not do it just over email because it's not going to give the same connection. So you want them to see your face. You want them to talk to you. If email's the only way, it's helpful, but it's a much less of a score. That's giving you 1 point, whereas talking to someone in person or over virtual, that's 10 points. Show them who you are. Maybe you tell them that you're autistic right now. You ask them for advice. You make them your ally. You're making that connections, and also you are asking them what challenges their company has. You work for a mining organization. Cool. Oh, and you have a goal to hire 10% of your staff as female, and right now you have 3 out of 5,000? That's an interesting challenge. Or, hey, you know, that Logan seems to have 0 therapists, and no one seems to be in training for it. What an interesting challenge. Understanding their challenges. What are their problems? And then after the chat, you're not done yet. After you've chatted with Bob from accounting, email them. Thank them for their information and their time. Even if Bob was the most annoying person you've ever met, you have no interest, you've learned accounting is not for you, cool. Bob did you a favor. Thank them for their information and their time. Ask for an introduction for someone else in their area, especially if you liked it. If you learn more about rural therapy and you're like, oh, yes, I need to know more. Hey, do you know anyone in Orem? You know anyone in Provo that I can talk to? You know anyone in this other branch of government? Ask them for a connection. It is way easier to get in the door when someone already is introducing you, when someone's opening the door for you. And then let them know that you're interested in any job area. Yeah, mining company. Let me know if you have any opportunities that might work for me. I'd love to learn more. You're not desperate, you're just letting them know you're open. Step 3. And I know I have 3 minutes, so I'm gonna rush through this. I have 0 minutes, right? Okay.
Lunch is until noon. You can go a little. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So pitch yourself. Again, most people don't do things. They're passive. They want to easy apply on LinkedIn. And also same with companies. Oftentimes they don't know what they want. Finding a new person is so annoying. Honestly, it takes forever. It's a pain in the butt. You do the hard work. You're pitching yourself. Hey, I was thinking about that problem you were having. I'd love to learn more about it. Can you tell me more about what it's like, working as a female in this company? What's it like being an entomologist in Egypt? I'd love to learn more about this problem. Or, hey, I remember you saying that you needed someone to fill this role. I'd love to learn more about it. Let's chat. You're not offering anything. You're not applying right now. You're being casual. You're playing it, like imagine you're dating. You're playing it easy. You're casual. You're not showing up to the first date with flowers and a box of chocolates. You're like, hey, I'm cool. I'm going to have a coffee. We're going to just chat about it. When people feel like someone is needing you, then it's like, oh, why do they need me? No. But when someone's like, oh, it's a chat, it's casual, then it's easy. It's like a Trojan horse. Your question is a Trojan horse. Why this works better than applying? First, you are solving a need they already have. They know, I have this problem. Oh, this person is offering to fill it. You are now an insider. Even in a small way, they know your name, they know your face, they know who you are a bit. You are an insider now. You're having just a chat. You're not interviewing. The same social issues don't apply here. I'm less stressed because I'm not interviewing. I don't feel like I need to give my perfectly scripted answers, and they're not interviewing me. They're not asking me all the hard questions that they want to. We're just chatting. And then finally, you look confident. You're not needy. You are saying, hey, heard you have this problem. I think I can help. So this is what it looked like for me. When I got my first internship with my MBA, I knew I needed to get a real full-time job. And I didn't know how to do that or how much money I should be asking for. And looking on Glassdoor could tell me I could make anywhere from $50,000 to $200,000, and there's 500 different titles that I could use, and most companies don't want to hire someone from the outside. So what I did was I thought of a question. It was a legit question that my boss was needing answered. For me, it was, hey, is your training department a cost center or a profit center? Are you guys expected to make money, or do you cost money? It was an expert kind of question, and then I reached out to every single person on LinkedIn I could find that had some kind of training role. It ended up being 70 different companies, mostly in Utah, but also in other places, and I ended up talking to about 120 people of all levels of the company. And at the end, not only did I have this sexy spreadsheet that told me what different job titles would pay, what I should ask for, but then I had ins at about 70 different companies. And what that ended up being was, at the end of it, I ended up having 15 job offers, which for training is not common. And my first job out of my MBA, I made $100,000, which again, for teaching, that's impossible. Because I knew the people, I knew the skills, I knew what they were asking for. I got lucky. I'm not going to deny it. And I do have a weird skill set, as so many of us do. But that has convinced me that doing this kind of approach, I do it now. I've done that for my current job that I'm interviewing for yesterday. So being weird and using your own skills to get on the inside, super helpful.
Sorry. I think I missed something.
Mm-hmm.
You said something about you called people up and you asked them.
I asked them my question. My question's not super relevant for this, but my question was, is training a profit center or a cost center?
And so you got answers for that?
Yep, and that was a Trojan horse question.
How did that get you in? I'm just trying to figure that part out.
Because no matter what, they now know your name. They know you're interested, they know you're smart. But you're going in, and I asked them, okay, so, hey, is your training center profit or a cost center? Cool. What's your training team like? What's the structure like? What's the different roles? If you wouldn't mind sharing, what's the different salaries of these different roles? How does an instructional designer compared to a regular trainer compared to a director level?
So are you saying that was like, that got your foot in the door so that when you went to apply to the different places, which you, when you went to apply, it made it so that they knew who you were? Or
Most of them I didn't apply. So
you didn't?
After we talked, I emailed them. I asked them for an introduction, but then I let them know, hey, let me know if you have any jobs opportunities now or in the future. I'd love to learn more. Your company seems cool. Let me know. And I had about 15 or 20 people reach out to me and say, hey, I'm actually hiring for this role. And then I did apply, but it was the same application, but it was a formality. Because you're now not getting tossed in the same pit that everyone else is. They are doing that for the HR reason. You've already kind of interviewed. Because again, that interview is a social test. Now you're gonna have a formal interview again, but it's gonna be different. It's gonna be a chat. Because now they already have met you. You're already in.
Okay. Hey, I just want to share. So I worked with this company called Sunshine Terrace, doing housekeeping, and they were downsizing, and then across the street is their sister company. And I was looking for some more hours because the sister company had been downsizing. Anyway, and then they discovered that I needed more hours, and I didn't really have to even go through an interview process or any of that. It was just like,
'Cause
hey,
you were
you
in.
want it? We know that we can trust you. You're not going to steal from us or whatever. So it was.
Exactly, you're already in. So I know we're at time. I'm happy to stay until lunchtime. Please let me know what questions that you have. Got about 10 minutes left, but either way, thank you so much for your time, your questions, and your participation.